Soundstripe.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. I am so excited that you're here. My name is Janice Dolnick, and tonight we are going to discuss, is legal nurse consulting a career for you? So I actually don't know why my chat is disabled, and I wish it wasn't, because I really want to hear from you, and I'm such a person that loves to hear. Let's see, can I disable chat or turn off the disabled chat? Can't. Well, that's a bummer. Anyhow, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, so you guys are free to stay until the end and ask me some questions. And tonight we're going to give away some swag. So a little bit of housekeeping rules. Try to turn your phone off. Go somewhere where you don't have any distractions. I know sometimes kids are climbing all over you, and I get that. But I really want you to focus, and you're here for a reason. And if this is a career for you, my intention for the night is to help you figure that out. My intention is not to sell you on anything. My intention is to teach you everything that I've learned in the last 13 years of owning my own business and give you the opportunity to make an educated decision for yourself, whether or not you want to take your RN career to the next level. And I know a lot of nurses are just burnout and exhausted right now, and everyone's grabbing for something. But what I hate the most is when someone joins a program and it really isn't for them. And so I really want you to think about it and ensure that this is something you would want to do. So we'll go through a lot of misconceptions and try to break everything down so that you can make a choice that's right for you and your family. And it most certainly is not a career for everyone. But for those of us who are doing it, we are having success, we are having a lot of fun, and it's really great when we're able to pull other awesome nurses into our community. And so I'm just so excited to go over all of this. I'm going to give away some books tonight. We have the Scrap the Scrubs book. It was #1 on Amazon twice, you guys, so thank you so much. We'll be giving those away for free tonight. Let's see here. Sorry, let me move this over. We'll be giving those away for free tonight. So I'll probably be picking people that are asking questions and are really engaged with me and stay till the end. That's super important because we're going to go over everything. So I'm actually going to share my screen with you so that I stay on task, because I have a tendency to like to talk. So let me close this. And I'll keep my Q&A here and my participant box. All right, you guys. There you are. Move you over here. All right, we are recording. So everyone, thank you so much for joining tonight. This is the Legal Nurses for Justice Certificate Program. And you're all here, like I said, because you're searching for something else, right? Something else in your nursing career that's just like, I'm ready to leave the bedside. I'm ready to own my life. I'm ready to not spend another holiday away from my family or away from my friends. And this is the door, and the door that really changed my life. It was something that I started 13 years ago. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Janice Dolnick, and I started this company 13 years ago after a travel assignment while in Chicago. And when I was on that travel assignment, I was actually really unhappy with what I was seeing in how nurses were being treated and how patients were also being treated. I saw it from both sides. And I thought, is there a way to make this better? And I thought about going to law school, except that I'm really awful at arguing. And I'm kind of the person that has to like sleep on it. And then I wake up and go, oh, I should have said that. Right. So I knew law school was out for me completely. And so I started searching for legal nurses, law nurses, trying to find if there was a career in law for registered nurses, because it made sense to me that lawyers working on a case where someone was injured in the hospital or maybe injured in a car accident. Sorry, let me see here. Callie's trying to get on. Callie, are you okay? I got my team back here, you guys, trying to manage me too. Trying to
Yep,
help me.
I'm good, and Kaylee's on now too. We're good.
Okay, awesome. You know, somebody gets bit by a dog, there's a car accident, a slip and fall at work, a criminal case. That was one of the first fields that I actually went into, was criminal. And so say someone gets hit at a bar over the head and your criminal attorney is trying to defend the person who knocked the person out, right? Why did they do that? Did they have medication in their system? You know, I had one case where a guy actually was in kidney failure and went out and was like hitting people over the head in a bar. So there's so many different ways you can work legal nurse consulting into your life. And for me, it was like the choice. I was like, this is something I really want to do. Is there a way to bridge, you know, help nurses have a better environment by supporting them as like an expert witness if they were to get accused of something, right? And how can I also help patients out to ensure that patients were receiving the best care and follow-up care? And so I really was into law. I thought it was really cool. And I was lucky in 2009, I found a program. I went through the program and I was, I guess, ignorance on fire. I was so excited. I didn't understand really what I was doing. I didn't get a lot of marketing help. There were no mentors at that time. There was no Facebook, no Instagram, nobody I could reach out to ask for help. And so I went out and I went door to door. I landed one attorney client. I thought I knew it all, right? And this is where a lot of LNCs that are new go wrong. And this is why we handhold you. I gave him all this information that was helpful, but wasn't helpful to him. And it was a really big learning experience for me, because I remember being so proud of this report that I created. It was like massive and I knew it was going to help him, right? And giving it back to him and him being disappointed. And I couldn't understand why, because I had spent a whole lot of money on a program. They had shown me how to write reports, but this attorney was disappointed in what I had created. And that immediately, it stopped me in my tracks. I froze. I was so scared to move on and do this as a career. And so I stopped. I stopped for a full 6 months. And during those 6 months, I kept thinking about how much I loved this career and how much I loved law and how much I knew I had a purpose, but I really needed to better understand my attorney client, right? I really needed to understand the individuals that I was serving as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a legal nurse consultant, if I was going to have success in this career. And this is a lesson most new nurses and new LNCs, sorry, not new nurses, but new LNCs miss. And the reason for this is it's not taught in most programs. So I did go back and I decided to really start to get to know my attorney clients and start to ask questions and really get to know them as a person and not as a dollar sign, right? And I started to see that they were individuals and that they were people just like us that all learn in different ways. And so I did end up going on and building a very successful LNC business. I have multiple nurses that work with me now. I have lawyers all over the country. I have them in Canada and in Australia. But it wasn't first without going through, I guess, failure, right? We just listened to somebody talk today, Joe Musso, he's an attorney, he was talking to our group on growth mindset. And he said, you learn through failure. And I did. But I came back after I quit, right? I didn't quit forever. I came back because there was something there pulling on me saying, come back, you can do this. And so it became the best career choice I ever made as a nurse. And we have had a lot of fun. About 7 years ago now, I started my community, Legal Nurses Rock. We were the first Facebook group for legal nurse consultants. We were the first ones on Instagram. And we've really just kind of exploded. It's this community of nurses. There's 6,000 nurses. And everyone is amazing. And they work hard and they understand what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So when I'm going through this today, I want you to ask yourself, am I meant to be an entrepreneur? Is this something I can do? Because working for yourself is incredibly difficult if you're not in the right mindset, and it can be really hard. It is not for everyone. And so I always say only the strong survive. You have to be strong. You've got to have a backbone. You've got to understand that there's going to be highs and lows. And if that's not someone you are, that's okay. And so I just want you to know this is about building a business. And I'll go into all of these questions that we get that are very common and try to help you better decide if this is a specialty you want to pursue. So what is legal nurse consulting? For those of you that are like, I have no idea what legal nurse consulting is. Legal nurse consultants are nurses who work in one of two ways. And there's actually more, but we're going to focus on two because I don't want to confuse you. There is the behind the scenes nurse, and that nurse works specifically behind the scenes with a lawyer, with a law firm, with a litigation team to help them build their best case. So an example is our lawyers get a case, it comes through the door. The paralegal immediately sends it to us. A majority of them, we end up doing merit reviews on to let them know if their case has merit and if they should pursue it. From there, the lawyers then take it back. We tell them the stuff that they're missing, any medical records, any documentation, any standards of care, protocols, policies, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, you need this in order to support your theory, right? So there's a lot of stuff we do there, creating a medical chronology, educating them on what happened, how any prior diagnoses might have been related to what they're feeling after a car accident. Are there any red flags they should know about if they were to walk into, if the attorney was to walk into mediation or into trial? Is there something in that chart that maybe they would have missed without a nurse because they don't technically, most of them don't understand all the medical terminology, and that you could help and save them ahead of time, right? And we support them all the way through trial or settlement. So it's really, really awesome. So if you're thinking, wow, that sounds really cool, it is. And then there's the expert witness part. And I functioned as an expert witness for a good portion of my career as an LNC until I got pregnant, and then I was done because I had to do a depo while I was like 8 months pregnant, and I just had to keep getting up and going pee. It was awful. So at that point, I was like, I never want to do another one of these again. So expert witnesses, and for those of you who have followed the Redonda Bot case, you saw an example of some expert witnesses. And I'm just going to say that not all expert witnesses are created equal, okay? So expert witness is someone who has an expertise in a field, and it's typically for a number of years. They typically say 10 years for an expert witness, to be an expert witness, to be able to opine on something. It's typically 10 years, but it's not really set in stone. Sometimes if you're a specialty nurse and you've only been practicing for 2 years and you're the only specialty nurse they can find, the judge would admit you. So there is no hard set rule. And sometimes there's a lot of misconception out there, especially in forums and Google, that you have to be a nurse for 10 years to work as an expert witness, blah, blah, blah. It's not always true. So the expert witness will give their opinion. That's what opine means. They will give their opinion on what happened in that case, and they will go and they will testify in court. So for those of you who are like, yeah, that sounds amazing, I would love to testify, do depositions, I totally have that personality. And there are nurses that love that, but I'm telling you right now, there are not enough nurses. I wish we had more. It is very difficult to find nurse expert witnesses. We tend to just like pull from the same pond. And so that is a field that if you're like, I would love to do this, it is a very much needed field for nurses. And for especially us, those of us that are having success and we're telling the lawyer, hey, you need this kind of nurse, you need this kind of nurse, and then we have to go find that nurse. Usually we'll end up training nurses to do this when we need them as an expert, because there just are not enough expert witnesses out there. There's just not enough nurses who are willing to go into a trial. So if that is your personality, keep that in the back of your mind, because this is an excellent field for you as well. So legal nurse consulting, you're helping lawyers either as an expert or behind the scenes in multiple different ways. You can attend DMEs, which are defense medical exams. We send nurses to that. You can go to or attend or send your subs, which is what I do now, to scans, to MRIs. Maybe if the lawyer's client is incredibly nervous and they're scared and they have a TBI and he doesn't want them going alone, you can send a nurse to attend that. So there's a lot of different facets to legal nurse consulting if you're creative enough, and we love to share that with our nurses, because you can do one, you can do all of them if you want. So you can have a specialty, a focus, a niche, or you can do a little bit of everything. All right. So what does a legal nurse consultant do? I think I already covered that. What special certificate or degree do I need to work as a legal nurse consultant? So this is a really big question. This is probably the number one question that we get. And the reason is Google, right? So I'm going to break it to you. If you've heard that it is required to have a certificate to function as a legal nurse consultant, it is a lie. It is not true. There is no governing board for legal nurse consultants. Okay. An attorney hires a nurse to do this job. Whether you had LNC after your name or not, a lawyer could hire you. Why? Because he's looking for a nurse who can help him understand what the P with the line over it means, right? Or where a G tube goes. That's what they're looking for. It's been created and now has its own name, legal nurse. Companies out there have created and trademarked special certifications or special certificates. And so when you go through different programs, you will get a different name to use after your name. It might be something, 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 something else. It just depends on the program and who created the name of that certificate. So you could say, I named mine Legal Nurses for Justice certificate program. I don't know. Let's see. We could call it the LNJ LNR or something, right? I could literally make it up. And so this question I get asked all the time. I'm like, you do not need a special certificate. Now, does that mean you should go out and practice by yourself without any training? No, not in a world that is social media now. And there is a lot of competition. There's a lot of initial competition when you're out there marketing, right? A lot of people giving this a go. And so you want to come to the table with skills and better skills than your competition, right? So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have some form of training. I absolutely recommend training. And it depends on how you like to learn. Maybe you like books and you want, to watch webinars, or you like in-person learning. It really just matters to you. What matters most is how you want to learn. And so you can look at different programs and see, hey, is this going to meet the way that I learn? Just like our attorneys learn, right? Everyone learns differently, but certification or a certificate is not required at all. In our program specifically, because I don't believe in certification, because I feel like it's a lie, I don't have one. You get a certificate but you're an LNC at the end of it. You actually did what's required. There's no real requirement, but there are certain stipulations out there that are things legal nurses should be able to do to function in this role. A legal nurse consultant once you finish our program. So you're not going to have, you know, all these things to use after your name because it's just a big scam and I don't believe in it. But you can use LNC after your name, which is what we do, which is the title of who we are and what we do. So what, oh, we already did one. The last thing I want to do, okay, so we get a lot of this right here. So I wanted to write up some of the things that I hear when you guys are reaching out to me. The last thing I want to do is go after my colleagues for something that happened at work in a screwed up healthcare system. Is medical malpractice all I can do? How many of you feel that way? Like, I really want to do this, but does that mean I have to go after, you know, Dr. Smith over here, who I actually really like, and he's like my best friend? So this, I think that we get this often because you've probably heard of the word hired gun, right? It's where doctors or experts tend to get hired, and they'll say whatever it is that maybe the lawyer wants them to say, and they lose their credibility, especially if it's, you know, nurses watching them. But I'm sorry, guys, my phone keeps going off. I just make sure we're okay. Yay. Where did we go? Here we go. So anyway, in MedMal, there are two different sides, right? So you have the side where somebody, most likely a doctor or a nurse, is being accused of doing something or not doing something, negligence, right? But there's another side to it. Going back to the Redonda Vaught case, it would have been great if Redonda had a really great expert witness working for her, right? That would have been awesome. So there's also the flip side where you can work the defense, which I think is incredibly exciting. There's the need for defense nurses because, as we're seeing quite common now on TV, is nurses are getting more and more in trouble. There's a lot going on, right? For true accidents, for something that happened without ill intent whatsoever. And the need for those really great experts is huge, like I said earlier. So you don't have to just do medical malpractice. It is the first thing that most nurses think of when they hear about a legal nurse consultant. But it is not, you do not have to go after your colleagues. You don't have to take a case against your colleagues, even if you decide to do med mal. Sometimes, you guys, sometimes those med mal cases, like, you might actually want to go after that doctor because they were horrible, right? So there may be some cases that you're like, oh my gosh, how did this guy get his license or his degree? How did he become a doctor? He's botching all these surgeries, like, he's careless. I mean, there are some people out there that aren't or shouldn't be practicing physicians, right? So there's a whole world to med mal. So I don't want you to just focus on, I'm going after my colleague, because it's bigger than that, right? Again, personal injury, car accidents. You're not looking at anybody in the hospital, right? You're looking at the guy that got injured in the car accident. Dog bite. You're looking at the person who got bit by a dog. Bicycle accident, the person who got ran over by the car, right? Again, criminal cases, workers' compensation. We do a lot of workers' comp. So somebody's injured at work. What happened to them? How did it happen? Is there any long-term effects that the attorney needs to know about? Personal injury, workers' comp, mass torts, and class actions. That's a big one. We worked on a very big case for over 3 years, a very large class action, similar to the Roundup litigation. And that was one of the cases that took our company to 7 figures. So we'll talk about how to get paid, how you get paid a little bit later, but there is so much you can do, right? Erin Brockovich, did you watch Erin Brockovich? So many different areas that you can do. Anytime there is a medical record involved, if that person went to a doctor, went inside an ambulance, and sometimes legal nurses do random things too. Like, I've actually made a chronology of text messages because the lawyer wanted me to. So there are just there's this whole world of things an LNC can do. And so I just want it out of your mind that MedMal is, you're not going to have to go after your best friend. Okay. It's much bigger than that. I hope that helps, because I know that's a feeling a lot of our nurses will say when we're talking to them. So moving on to what can I expect to make as a legal nurse consultant, and how do I get paid? So that's a big question. And if you're in most forums or you go to most Facebook groups, nobody wants to talk about money, but we need to talk about money. So we're going to talk about money, because you need to know and you need to make an educated decision. Is this something that I can pursue, leave my job for, and support my family, right? Put food on the table. So what we typically see is about $110 to $175 per hour for behind the scenes nurses. So those nurses that are working up the case behind the scenes, their work is not discoverable, it's privileged, the lawyer gets to keep it, he doesn't have to turn it over. About 110 to 175. Depends on the firm. Sometimes they're smaller mom and pops, we charge them less. Expert witness work, totally different world, right? Most of the time we see anywhere up to $300 for a registered nurse per hour. And I've seen as much as $425, $450 for a nurse practitioner who's willing to do expert witness work. Okay. Significantly cheaper. Okay. So for those of you that cringe and go, is a lawyer really going to pay that? Well, lawyers have two options, really. Well, three. Their paralegal can do their chronos and fact summaries. And you guys, paralegals are probably pretty good at it because they've been doing it a long time, but they don't have medical training, right? And so what we see when we get those paralegal reports is a lot of copy paste, but not a lot of analysis and breaking it down so that the team actually understands what's happening. So paralegal's one way that a lawyer will have that work done. The other option is hiring somebody from out of the country, which tends to be one of the pushbacks that we get from lawyers. They're doctors in India and they only charge $12 an hour. Why should I hire you? There's quite a few reasons why that's not recommended. And then the other way is, oh, hang on guys, I just got a call. Oh, how do I get paid? Sorry guys, my screen went off. And then, so we've got paralegals, we've got overseas, and then we've got physicians. So sometimes they will pay a physician, and physicians are incredibly expensive, but they get really excited about it because they're like, well, I have a doctor on staff. I'm like, great, how much do you pay that doctor? And some pay anywhere, I've seen $600, $700, $1,200, $1,500 per hour for a physician. Now they might have them on staff, or they may be using them as contractors. And the bad thing about that is most of those doctors are still working, right? So they're not available, and their reports come back 3 months down the road. They're really expensive. And if the lawyer has a question, there's something that they need to know, it's difficult for them to get a hold of them. Sometimes they won't get back to them for a week, 2 weeks. I've heard a month or more. So having a nurse it's more affordable. It makes more sense. And the cost is a write-off. It can actually come out of the funds before the firm gets paid. So it's calculated in there. So it's not like they're out of pocket, if that makes sense. So when you think about having a nurse on staff or working as a contractor, there's what we've seen, here's an example. We had a firm reach out to us. They had their paralegal do their chronology. They just did a chrono. They just put everything into, order of what happened. And they called us up and said, hey, we only got a $300,000 settlement on this case. And they didn't take it. They're like, we know there's more here, but we can't figure it out. I said, send it over and we'll have our nurses look at it, right? So our nurses looked at it. We tore it apart. We put it back together and we sent it back to the lawyer. We said, hey, take a look at this. And we send over what's called a fact summary sheet with it as well. So it's broken down for our lawyers to really understand what happened, all the diagnoses, how those work. We include images, illustrations, anything they need to be able to visually see what happened to their client and understand it well enough to go back to the mediator or to go into trial and explain it to a jury. And the lawyer, we sent it over, and they must have had the call immediately thereafter, because within, not kidding, 5 minutes, they called us back and said they just settled for max of $1 million after looking at just the opinion section of our report. So when a lawyer looks at what I'm trying to tell you here is there's a lot of value in what you're charging, and understanding what you bring to the table and understanding the value that you bring is really, really important, and being comfortable with charging that much, right? I always say lawyers charge hundreds of dollars an hour and you're a team. So that's something that we try to help our nurses get over. Like, you are absolutely worth what you're charging, and the amount of value these lawyers get, and they get bigger settlements or they get bigger payouts because they have a nurse who's able to help better explain what happened, put it into a way that makes sense. So that is about what you'll get paid, okay, and why. How do you get paid? We collect what's called a retainer. We work off of a retainer just like lawyers do. They understand that. Some nurses are scared to ask for it. You don't have to be scared. It is very much their world. Okay. Hey, sitting over an invoice for a $1,500 retainer. As soon as I get that, I can start work on your case. Okay, Janice, no problem. Like that. Nurses are really nervous to ask for it when they're first starting, but we help you get over that. Another question that we get often is, hey, I live in a small town. Can I have success, or do I have to live in a big city? This is a big misconception that you have to live in a big city to have success. It is such a misconception. I've really thought of just like moving to an island and just working from an island, because guys, social media, right? Look at where I'm in. I don't know how many 300 people registered. I will be in over 300 people's living rooms, right? By the time they all watch the replay, because I know some of you had to work. That's crazy. It's crazy what social media, what Zoom, what we have, and how many people we can impact, right? And so you can do the same thing here. So like I said, I have clients all over the country. I have a few here in Southern California, but I have a lot more elsewhere. So long as you have a phone, email, you can do this business. You do not have to live in a big city. One of the downsides of working or not living in a big city is not having the ability to attend events, like local bar association events. That's one of the downsides. But it's rare. I actually never went. It wasn't until last July that we started going back to events, but I hadn't been to legal events in probably 6 or 7 years, because you can do this all socially, all by internet, really. So it's like anywhere you live, you can do this, so long as you have good internet. So if you don't have good internet, you have to buy good internet, because that's really important. You have to have good internet. Okay. How do I find work as a legal nurse consultant? This is one of the biggest questions, and I think biggest concerns of nurses is like, hey, this is exciting. I want to do this. This sounds like a career I could totally dive into, but how do I get clients, right? Well, that's a great question. Because you are an entrepreneur, you actually have to market yourself. And what I know about nurses is we don't like to market. We're not very good at it, right? So it is a skill that we have to learn. And I've taken lots and lots of courses on marketing and social media. And inside of my program, I actually teach you all of those secrets. And I walk you through every process, if you can copy paste, you can market, okay? I tell you exactly what to do, how to do it, and down to when to do it. So marketing is scary, but it's how we find lawyers. So for me, what I love about it is you have to think, so the average case that we get paid for. So one case typically lasts about 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 8-hour days. So what? 16 hours, let's say, for $2,500. Okay. So $2,500 in 2 to 3 days of work is not too shabby, right? I don't know why. I'm so sorry. My screen keeps going off. what's great about this is when you turn work product into a lawyer and you've done a good job, you've listened to what they asked you to do, you provided value, they are very, very excited. Okay, once they use this, I don't have any lawyers who don't use us anymore. Every single lawyer we've ever worked with still works with us to this day. And what's great about that is you need 2 to 3 lawyers really for one person to have success, you guys. Okay, so that means there's over 1 million injury attorneys in the US. I think there's 300,000-ish that graduate every year from law school. It's not oversaturated, and there are plenty of lawyers and there's plenty of work, okay? So when we're looking for attorneys, we'll teach you how to do that. We'll teach you how to make those phone calls, how to do those emails, how to get out and network. Sometimes you have to drive. You know, I've driven to legal events that were out. In fact, I'm going to another one in Vegas. That's 4 hours away. I'm going to one in Idaho, which is hours away, right? Sometimes you have to do things to build your business. So even if you live in a small community and you want to go out, you can go out and meet people, right? So you can do it anywhere. Most of my career has been online. And what's great about it is the lawyers that don't leave tell all their friends. So that leaves marketing expense really low. I've rarely spent any money marketing my legal nurse consulting business. Rarely, because I don't have to. My lawyers tell all their friends about what we do and how we help. So that's really cool. If you can land that one lawyer and do a really great job, you could have work for life. And it really, sometimes I always tell everybody in our program that it's like a deck of cards, right? Everyone's ace is somewhere in there. Everyone's ace or attorney is in that pile somewhere. Some flip that deck over and they've got 4 attorneys right on the top. And others are flipping, like, where the heck is my first attorney? That's normal, but eventually you do get that ace, you do get that attorney. Another question we get is, you know, I don't see any jobs on Indeed. And this is a big thing. So when you're going and you're looking up legal nurse consulting, you're looking up programs, you decide you're going to hop onto Indeed and look up jobs, right? So 2 reasons there aren't a lot of jobs for legal nurse consultants on Indeed. The first big one is most attorneys still do not know who we are or how we help. So if they don't know who we are or how we help, they're not asking for us, right? It's a big portion of attorneys that still have no idea who or what LNCs are, okay? So that's a big one. That's why you don't see jobs. And then as an entrepreneur, it's our job to go out and make those connections and build, right? Very similar to a real estate agent. You have to go out, you have to say, hey, I'm selling houses, or hey, got this really great work product. I can help speed up, you know, I can help you get through these cases quicker. I can help you save money. I can help you get bigger settlements. So being an entrepreneur, most nurses leave bedside to not go to work in a law firm. There are some that do. They get paid less. Okay, they end up settling. For some of them, it is kind of a settlement. Well, I didn't find any lawyers on my own. I'm just going to take a job and it's comfortable. But a majority of our nurses that come to us are burnout at the bedside, do not want to work, you know, for someone else anymore, and want to work as an entrepreneur so that they can choose when they work. They can choose what days they take off. If they get to see their kids, you know, game, attend a holiday party. So although there aren't jobs posted, again, the biggest thing we do as LNCs is educate attorneys, which I love because we're not really selling, right? So if I can just educate an attorney on why a nurse on their team is incredibly invaluable when you're looking at the grand scheme of things, right? Having a nurse on your team, it's genius. You guys, our lawyers absolutely love us. They love us. They think legal nurses they call us their pocket nurse. They're like, this is amazing. They'll be in deposition. Someone will throw something at them that they weren't prepared for. They'll take a break. They'll text me and be like, what does this mean? I'll say, this is what it means, right? They're never alone. They always have someone there. So a majority of what we do in regards to marketing is educating. And you're a nurse, you know how to educate. It's 100% what you do as a nurse. It's your job. So if you can take your mind and switch it and say, I'm not marketing, I'm not selling, I'm educating. Either they get the value of having a nurse on their team or they don't. Next, you can have success. Okay. And it is, we go out and we build our own business. We go out and we educate lawyers. We reach out and we tell them how we help, how cool it is to have a nurse on their team. And that's, why we don't see jobs on Indeed. It's very rare. If they've found us and then they want to hire in-house, somebody will be like, I worked with a nurse, they were awesome, I'm going to post a job on Indeed because I want one in-house. But it is very rare that you will see jobs. You have to go out and actually make your job. And let me tell you, it's incredibly rewarding to know that you created something so big out of nothing. Literally, you've created something that puts food on the table, that puts your kids through college, that pays all the bills out of nothing. You stepped away from the hospital and you created something out of nothing because you were brave enough to go out and make it happen. There is so much satisfaction in that. There's just so much like, oh, I did it. So I never even look for jobs on Indeed. I would never, ever, ever look for a job in a lawyer's office, ever. I've had them ask me if I would join their office. If I could, I will come to your office if you have a meeting and you want to talk to me, but I will not work in your office. That's not why I got into this career, right? It's not. So anyway, moving on. How am I going to get work as a legal nurse consultant if I have never done a case before? So this is a common question. It's like, how do I get work? I've never done a case. I've taken a program. Now, you guys, I just want you to know that probably 50% of the messages that come through to us about inquiring about our program are actually people who have already taken a program and can't get work because they don't have a case they worked up. And this is a really big deal. We actually, again, had that Joe Musso, who's a lawyer, talk to us today. And he said, the best way that you can get ahead of your competition and the best way to stand out is by having, not just saying what you do, but showing what you do, right? And that's what we teach our nurses to do. So when you go through our program, we actually handhold you through 3 real life cases. And that's really important. So you actually get to open medical records. You get to organize them. We have videos. We train you on it. We do 2 live Zooms every single week so that you can hop on and ask your questions as you're building your reports. Show you how to do the fact summaries. We teach you how to understand your client so that you're not just creating a templated work product. That's the worst thing an LNC can do, and which is why I always tell nurses, don't go buy a template book online, because if you're not filling it out correctly and in a way that lawyer understands, you're doing your lawyers a total disservice. Let me give you an example. Lawyer number 1 is 30 years old, and he just started practicing as a medical malpractice lawyer. He's on fire, he's super excited, but he doesn't know much about anything, right? Lawyer number 2 over here has been practicing for 40 years. He's about to retire. He's only done med mal cases, and he is a genius. He could probably run circles around you, okay? What most LNCs do is they'll go out to save money. They'll buy a template and they will put the same information into that report for those lawyers, right? So both lawyers end up getting the same report. Now, in a nurse's mind, it makes sense, right? These are the facts. This is what happened. It's in order. Like, what do you want? You get the same report, you get the same report, here's a template. The problem with that is what? Lawyer number 1 either got too many big words that you didn't break down, and he needs illustrations and pictures. He's like, wait a minute, what does this mean? I don't understand. I need more. I can't read this. This is no better than the medical records. Like, I want my money back, right? And lawyer number 2, you think you're being helpful and you've given him everything he needs. So you're filling it full of images and illustrations, teaching him all about what a TBI is, or, what this or that is. And he gets that report and he is insulted. And he doesn't want to pay you because you just wasted his time. I know what this is. I've been doing this for 40 years. Why didn't you just do what I asked? Right? We see those scenarios quite often in templated work product, which is why in our program, and this is why we're different, and we'll go over this in a bit, we teach you how to write the right report for your attorney clients. And it's really important. And people say, can I see a sample of your work product? I'm like, no, because even if I showed it to you, you wouldn't understand the reason it is what it is. It took us 6 years, six years, you guys, to create our fact summary report to perfection, to the point where almost any lawyer can use it, whether they're new or old. We can plug new or old. We can plug in the information that's relevant to them and it makes sense. So we have a template, but it's created in a way that we're able to cater it to each attorney. And it took a really long time to figure out. And it took a really long time to find out what it is those attorneys really wanted and needed and how to tie all those pieces together in a way that makes sense. Because you've got to take sometimes super complex diagnoses or super complex injuries and speak to some of them as if they're, in second grade, whatever, biology, or second grade medical, learning about medicine, like second graders. So you've got to really understand what to put in, what to leave out, how to serve your client best. And you get that in our program. You do 3 real work product samples. You get to go through those weekly. It typically takes 2 weeks per case if you were to work full-time on them, and most nurses have jobs. So it does take some nurses longer, which is fine. You go through each, so it's about a 6-week process for mastery, and you get video reviews. So you turn it into us and my team, who I've trained and have been with me for a really long time, and they're really, really smart and really awesome, go over your reports, and then they record it and they tell you where you messed up, what you did well on, what you need to fix, because you're going to then take your reports, put a bow on them, fix them, and those will go out. You will take those out, and those are your work product samples. So that's an actual piece of work you did all by yourself, right? And the first one sucks. Nobody ever does really good on the first one. The second one gets better. By the third one, our nurses are pretty dang proficient. So it's really exciting. We've been doing this for a long time, and we've been watching. Hey, about the third one, it's like the light is on, I get it, and they're going, and it's so much quicker than the first 2. So that's how you get work if you've never had a case before. It's so important to have a work product sample. In fact, it is one of the first things a lawyer will ask you for. And a lot of nurses who have gone through programs, I've seen it happen. They'll say, what's that? The lawyer will say, send your work product. They'll post it on our Facebook, go, a lawyer just asked me for my work product. What is that? That's a problem, right? So it's necessary, and it's why our program has that. 1, you should know how to write reports. You should know the little quirks that make attorneys twitch if you didn't quite write it out correctly, or you use weird punctuation that they don't like. I notice a lot of nurses type in text. I did it too when I first started. You know how we chart? How we document in the hospital is not how we write reports. Yet I read a lot of reports from newer LNCs that are writing them as if they were charting. And when we're charting, we have a space this big, right? And so we try to cram as many words in there to make sense. And sometimes the reports are written that way, and I'm like, oh, this is a mess. So there is a way to write those reports in a way that the lawyers understand, and that is, pleasing to their eyeballs. They look at it and go, oh, this looks nice. I want to read this. This is great. This is organized. Let's see here. I work for a large hospital system in my state. Look at this too. Kaiser here in California. Is it a conflict of interest to take a case from that hospital system? And if so, how do I get work, right? Hey, we got Kaisers all over. I work at Kaiser. If I take a case, is it a conflict? Yes, you don't want to take a case from somebody you work for. That's a conflict. However, there are, again, there's a lot of other hospitals besides, one hospital system that you can work for. And you could never do a med mal case at all and only focus on PI. A big part of our practice now is all personal injury. So it doesn't matter. Does that make sense? I know that that tends to be a fear for a lot of people, and it doesn't need to be. Okay. There's, like I said earlier, there's so many different ways you can practice. If I decide that this is the next step for me, do I have to quit my job in order to get started? No. I don't know any of us that are like wealthy nurses. We're all broke, right? No, you do not have to quit your job to do this. I did not quit my job to do this. I waited 6 years before I completely gave up even per diem. So I don't always recommend it, especially if you're the breadwinner of the family, right? And you have bills to pay. There will be a point that you can go, from your full-time, I remember when I went from 312s to 212s. It was like night and day, like changed my life. I was like, this is amazing. So we tend to see kind of that transition, like full-time down to part-time and then per diem, and then you have enough work to sustain. Sorry, people think everything's good. So you have enough work to sustain, right? To pay your bills and do all of that. I have had some people literally dive off right into the deep end, quit their job. Like they'll call me and be like, I already quit my job. How do I join your program? You know who you are. And I'm like, why'd you do that? What? But some people need that in order to get both feet, off the fence and get going. So there are some people that do. They're like, I'm all in. If I continue to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, I will not make this work. So some people need to just jump right in. And that's okay. We have people do it. And I'll tell you, they tend to be more successful much more quickly because they have the time to focus and work on their business. And they have no other choice. I got to pay the bills, right? I got to feed my kids. So they tend to do really well when they do that. I never want to say, hey, yeah, quit your job, because I want you to be able to pay your bills. And it's not an overnight success. It's sold as an overnight success. There's a lot of programs and a lot of marketing out there that will tell you, make this much money an hour and quit your job tomorrow. That is rare. It does take weeks, months, sometimes a year to have enough attorneys that you can make what you're making in the hospital. And you typically make a lot more. If you think about it, if you did 3 cases a week, that's $7,500, right? A week times 4. I don't know. That's more than I made as a nurse. And then if you start thinking about subbing, so hiring a team of nurses to do the work, you make money over what they're being paid. Do you see what I'm saying? So there is a lot of ways to earn an income, but that you have to be comfortable. It has to be comfortable for you. Some people can do it, some cannot. And that's a decision you have to make on your own. I have only been a nurse for a few years. Can I still do this? Can I have an honest conversation with you? And some of the older LNCs elsewhere, like, hate me for this. Some of my best legal nurse consultants are brand new nurses. Shocking. You know why? They listen. Some of my worst LNCs have been nurses practicing for 30 years. You know why? Because they think they know it all. So there is a lot of, again, untruths, is that a word, on the internet. And it'll say you have to be an RN for 5 years. You have to be an RN for 10 years before you do this. That is not true. Okay. There is no hard rule saying that that is written in stone. Nowhere. And remember, so you're a new nurse. You still have 2+ years, 4 years, if you got your bachelor's, of experience. I'm telling you, if you know medical terminology, you're helpful. If you're resourceful, right? Hey, I don't know how to do an OB case, but my friend over here does. She's been doing it for 15 years. I'll hire her to do this case. I'll sub this case out to her, right? You can still make money. So for those of you that are entrepreneurs at heart, your wheels are probably spinning, because mine were when I first thought about how I could grow this business, right? Okay, well, I might not have a specialty in OB, but why can't I take the OB case and sub that out? Yeah. So yes, you can do this if you're a newer nurse. And I was a newer nurse. So I had been practicing, or I had been working as a nurse for 2 years. when I started my business, 2 years. So I was a new nurse and I got the same thing that a lot of new nurses get. Like, it's only, you have to do this, blah, blah, blah. I had nurses tell me it doesn't work. People laugh in my face, tell me I'd never succeed. You know, all the grumpy nurses at work. I don't tell people my dreams anymore, you guys, because there are a lot of dream stealers out there. Especially nurses. They tend to be like the worst dream stealers because they're just so miserable in the hospital, right? So anyway, sorry, I totally get off track sometimes. Okay, new nurses are amazing. Yes, you can do this. It's up to you. For me, I was doing it, no questions asked, and I've been doing it, and I've had hard times, you guys. It's a business. There are hard times. When COVID happened, hopefully that never happens to anyone again, but when COVID happened, what happened? I had a team of nurses, right? And all the courts shut down. And everybody that pays money shut down. So we went a full 12 months without being paid. It's a business, it happens. I was able to get a SBA loan to ensure that my nurses made money, right? I paid my nurses to ensure they got something for that year. And then I was able to pay it back once our lawyers were up and running again and able to pay us. But it's a business. Every business has risks, you guys. But when you're making more money than you made in the hospital, guess what? You actually can put a savings account together and save for a rainy day, right? I now have a savings. I never had a savings account when I was a nurse. I'm going to tell you, I wish I had chat enabled, but a majority of nurses don't have a savings account either. A majority. They work paycheck to paycheck. How do I know? Because I know I was a nurse. That was me. I did not have a savings. I worked paycheck to paycheck and I barely survived. So when you're making more money, guess what? You can save for a rainy day. So if something happens, you can pay your bills, right? We have slower months. We call them the 4 seasons of legal nurse consulting. It tends to be slower around the holidays. Why? People are celebrating. They're not working. Well, if you made 100K over the summer, can you drag out that 100K to last 2 months? Yeah, you plan for it. You plan for it. Okay. I've only been a nurse for a few years. Can I still do this? Got that one. Is this a remote position? Yes, it's a remote position. Absolutely. It's why we want to do this. We want to work remote. We want to work from home. I homeschool my son and I have to be home. He cannot go to school right now. So I have to homeschool him. And so this job allows me the freedom to homeschool him. And I'm not going to tell you it's easy because it is not easy. It's pure chaos most every day. But I have the opportunity to be home with him. And he has some special needs right now that we're working on. But if I worked in a hospital, honest goodness, if I worked in a hospital, I don't know what would happen with my son. If that was how I was paying my bills, I honestly don't know what would happen to him. This job has afforded me the opportunity to be home and be where I need to be with my kids. I don't know if I messed this up. And that's just there. You can't put a price on that, right? Oh, so yes, remote position. Most all of us do it so that we can work remotely. Do I have to testify in court? This is a big one. Nurses are nervous. I'd say probably 90% of nurses want to only work behind the scenes and they do not want to testify. And that's okay, right? We need a lot of behind the scenes nurses. There is a lot of work, you guys. The average nurse can only do maybe 1 to 3 cases a week, depending on the case type. Some of these lawyers are carrying 40 each in a firm. So some lawyers have, well, actually one of our lawyers has like 3 subs. One lawyer has 3 nurses because they have such a heavy caseload, right? So most of you will want to just work behind the scenes. The rest, the kind of is a really small percentage, 10% want to testify in court. You absolutely do not have to. Like I said earlier, when you work with the lawyer as part of the litigation team, your work is privileged. It's as if you were their paralegal, as if you were another attorney. They can't give away your work product. So you get to help them. And what's nice about working behind the scenes, and what a lot of lawyers don't understand, is you can be very candid with them. As an expert, I feel that we are not able to be very candid all the time. Like, hey, let me tell you, this guy really messed up, right? You know, like there's things we do and don't say. So when you're working behind the scenes, it's helpful because you can do more for them, if you will. So no, you do not have to testify if you're nervous about it. And what if I don't want to start my own business? That's okay. You guys, there are so many opportunities for subs. In fact, every week I probably throw out a need, maybe more than one, and I cannot find nurses to help. We need more nurses that don't want to be the boss, that want to be the CEO. Those of us that are having success doing this need help. So if you're just like, hey, I want to do this, you can just be a sub. You still need to learn how to write reports. I'll still get nurses that say, well, I don't want to go through a program because I just want to be a sub. Well, you still need to know how to write reports. You also, if you're working as a sub, have to have a business. You have to figure out how to set up all of that up. So still going through a training program is very important, even if you just want to be a sub and you want to work for someone else. And also, when I hire subs, I now only hire them from my program because I've trained them, right? So they've gone through the 3 cases and I can say, oh, she was really good or he was really great. I want to hire him. So there is a competition of subs. And I'll say to the subs, people will randomly send me their resumes. Sometimes I get like 6 resumes a day. And they've never had training, or they have training, but they don't have work product sample. Who am I going to pick? I'm going to pick the person who has work product sample to show me what they do. Why? Because if you suck at being a sub, you still want to get paid and I lose money, right? You're like, I took a week to do that. I'm like, it sucks. Then we're fighting and then I just give you money to go away. So I lose money with subs that don't know what they're doing. So I want to hire subs that know what they're doing. So even if you want to be a sub, there is competition to be a sub. There are actually a lot of nurses that don't want to own a business and do work just as subs, and that's okay. We need them. So you can do that too. About legal nurses for justice certificate program. So I'm going to tell you a bit about our program and let you know what it looks like and why I feel it's the best one out there, but why it's different. And I think you need to understand why it's different, because we get on these calls, we do a lot of calls a day, and there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of mistruths out on the internet, lots of misconceptions. So let me tell you why our program is built the way it is, which is very different to most programs. Most programs sell a certificate program, and that's the meat and potatoes. That's what they do. Here's a certificate program. Here's what an LNC does. Here's what you need to know. Goodbye. Okay. In our program, we have 3 different levels, if you will, 3 different kind of courses within our one certificate program. The very first one you take is called the certificate program, right? The Legal Nurses Rock certificate program. We're actually rebranding, and it's going to be the Legal Nurses for Justice certificate program. But in that course, you learn all the basic foundational things that you need to know in order to function as an LNC. So you learn some legal terminology, you learn what your role is, you know, how you help lawyers, anything and everything dealing with the basic foundation of what a legal nurse consultant is and how they help. And that's really, really important. You've got to understand there are some legal terms you're going to want to know because the lawyer is going to use them on you and you're going to be like, I don't know what that means. So I do teach you a lot of the common terms and things that you're going to hear so that you know. So that's important. However, it's just the foundation of building a business, okay? And this is where most people stop and they don't understand. Well, I'll just take a certificate program. I'll go out there, I'll land some lawyers on my own. I don't need to know marketing. I don't need to write reports. They do what I did, where you either mess up or they never land a lawyer because they don't know what they're doing and they quit. So we wanted to structure our program in a way that made sense and helped our nurses have success. So the foundation is learning what an LNC is and common terms, all that good stuff. The meat and potatoes of our program is the report writing portion. Why? Nurses are hands-on learners, aren't we? We are. get our hands dirty all the time, right? That's how we learn, right? We untie all those IV lines, like all the stuff we do with our hands. It's really, really important that we get in there and we touch it and feel it, right? We pull apart those medical records, we print them off, we put them on the ground and we spread them out and we use little, yellow stickies and put them everywhere and highlight things that are important to us. It's how our brains work. And so we put a lot of work. We have a really big team that supports our nurses in the report writing section because, guys, it takes a team to support nurses to do this, right? It takes a big team. And this is where you learn how to actually be a legal nurse. And this is where you actually make money. This part right here is how our nurses make money, is by the end of this is having work product sample that you can just show someone and go, hey, let me just show you this report. And they go, oh my gosh, I've never seen a report like that. Guys, you can ask anybody in our program. We've never had a single lawyer tell us our reports suck. In fact, they always come back and they say, this is the best report I've ever seen. Well, it took us a really long time of learning what it is they wanted and listening to what it is they really needed. So there's a lot. This isn't just some template that I threw together and try to sell. There is a lot behind what we do and the reason we do it. We had a nurse the other day ask, and this is common because we're nurses and this is how we think. And I actually did this. So this is also why I know nurses do this. Why can't we just put the records in order based on specialty? Makes sense, right? So you get all these records, they're in a big box, in a big pile. You take a cute little binder and you put like med surg, you put ortho, you put PT, the ER records, and you organize them under those tabs in order. I mean, it absolutely makes sense for a nurse, right? Because we're able to quickly go through and figure out what happened, when it happened, and how, because we understand it. We understand what we're seeing. You hand that to a lawyer, he's going to freak out because he doesn't understand all those pieces. What the heck's an ortho? What the heck is this? What is this? This doesn't make sense, right? So when we write and put our information together, we put it in a way that paints a story and makes sense to them. Because we're writing the report for them. We're not writing the report for a doctor or another nurse. It's not our end of shift report, right? They don't understand. So we have to create it in a way that makes sense to them. And I only learned that because I actually did it wrong. And I share that with people. And sometimes people will ask me, well, can't we do it this way? And I'm like, no, we do it this way because I know there is a method to my madness, I swear. So that is the biggest portion of this program. This is where you get in, you realize this is a little harder than I thought, but you get through it because you have us twice a week, right? You have 2 Zooms a week where we're helping you answer your question, live Zooms with my team. You have access to our Facebook group to ask questions. We have so many great nurses that are still with us in our community after their 12 months that they like mentor people all the time. I mean, they'll call them and help them. We have an incredible community. So there's a lot of support in that part. And this is where a lot of nurses need support because that first report that you're writing feels very overwhelming. And for some nurses, it's paralyzing and they don't move forward. And so having support is really, really important. And getting those reports done and perfected so that you can turn around and use them in our last portion, which is our biz growth portion. Biz growth is where we focus on marketing and bringing in the lawyers. Okay. And that's an important piece too, because you got to make some money, but it's a part that makes people most nervous. And it's a part that most people don't teach on, and not that they don't just not teach it. There's not a lot of hand holding in it. And these are some of the reasons we're different from other programs. So we're not going to just say, hey, send emails. We're going to say, hey, you're going to send this email on this date at this time. It's going to say this. And when you get a response, let us know. And then you get a response and you say, hey, Janice, or hey, team, I got this response. I don't know what to say. Great. We tell you what to say. Say this. This is what this means. And the more you do it, And it typically takes 2 to 3 months of getting these questions. Every scenario is different, right? You're never going to really, well, you never do get the same case twice. So having somebody there to support you for a year while you're getting questions asked that you don't know the answer to is incredibly valuable for you, and it keeps you in the game. It keeps you accountable. Having people is really, really important. So the biz growth portion is fun. That's the fun. That's where the fun begins, right? You're networking, you're doing all these things to build your business, you're creating your website. And we do things different too. A lot of programs will tell you to go out and get your website, print some marketing materials, and you're off to the races. We actually don't even look at a website first. You do not need a website to have success, you guys. I always want my nurses to get a return on their investment as quick as possible. And most of our nurses pay off this program within the first 6 months of their business. Anybody pay their nursing degree off in 6 months? Probably not. Like, it took me like 20 years to pay my nursing degree off. So to be able to start a business and pay off your investment in 6 months and get a return on investment, or have, a great ROI, that's what they call it, return on investment in the business world, is pretty much unheard of. Most businesses take 2, 3, sometimes 5 years to get a return on their investment. So it's really, really great that you can do this quickly with hand holding and get your money back, get out there and do what you need to do to get this done. Some other ways that we're different. I think we have the best hands down community of legal nurse consultants out there, period. I have been a part of a lot of different places and groups, and it can get catty. There are some miserable people. There's some LNCs that answer back incredibly snooty to brand new LNCs. And we just don't tolerate it. We don't put up with it. We don't have time for it because we're all busy working. And so I love that about our community. Our nurses are very generous. They're very much going to reach out if somebody needs help. Like I said, we have nurses that will just call people up. They don't get anything for it except that they believe in what you put out in the universe, you get back, right? So we just have this incredible group of nurses. We just came back from San Diego. Those are the videos that I was showing you guys. We just came back from San Diego. A bunch of us went and had a vacation together. We did a panel discussion where we had 2 lawyers come and hang out with us so that the nurses could get comfortable talking to lawyers, because lawyers are what? Scary, right? Well, they're not. They're really not. Like 1% of them are pretty scary, but in person and networking events, and they loosen their tie, they're pretty cool. So we want to give our nurses the opportunity to have those conversations, see that they're normal people, see that they are, this isn't such a scary thing. And we try to bring all of those situations that I know nurses will struggle with. I try to bring it to you first with me so you can experience with me before you go out there into the real world and you're by yourself and you're like, this is terrifying. So we had a panel discussion. We did a group yoga. We had really great food. We all hung out until 2 a.m. It was so much fun. And I can't even tell you, the group of people, I haven't had that much fun since I first started nursing in 2007. And I actually became an LVN first. So 2002, I worked at the same hospital as an RN and an LVN. So 2002, since I had my work family back then. Nursing changed a lot, and like there was no work family and everybody was miserable, which is why I wanted to get out. But this was like that work family environment where everyone was just hands down amazing, excited for each other. It was so cool. So we have these networking events. We try to do them. We do them once a year. We've been doing them for the last, this is our 3rd event in person. And we also do training Zooms throughout the year, additional training Zooms for our nurses. So the community is just great. And I know as nurses, we're burnt out at the bedside. We might be burnt out of our colleagues, and having that group of people that they're in the same place as you, they have the same fears, you know, but they're all still doing it and pushing through, motivate you and love on you. That's something we haven't felt in a really long time as nurses. And so it's great. I mean, it's just a place you want to be. Like when we left San Diego, it was like, can we go back? Like we've already been messaging each other, like, how can we get back together? Should we meet in Napa? Like, they're amazing. And so you're going to be a part of an amazing community. What else can I tell you here? How many mentorships or programs out there? How are you different? What's the cost? So we're going to do a cost breakdown. And that's a common question right now that people always ask. And I always get like, you guys, I'm going to be honest with you. Nothing comes for free, right? People will say, well, I want to get trained and I want it to be free. I don't want to pay money to start a business. I don't know where you can start a business for free. I have no idea. If you go out and do some network marketing company, they're going to make you buy a bunch of product. If you go out and start your own franchise, you're going to have to spend like $100K. If you decide to do mobile dog grooming, you're going to have to spend $90K. Every business has upfront expenses. You're going to have to buy a computer, especially if yours is old and really dated, right? You're going to have a nice phone so you can take great calls. Like there are things you are going to have in expenses when you start a business. So our program, we have, when you're looking at the 3 different tiers, the certificate and the mastery, it typically takes our nurses about 6 weeks to 3 months to do the first part. Okay. After they finish the first 2 parts and they start biz growth, they end up getting a full 12 months with us. So the clock doesn't start until they actually open biz growth and start working on biz growth. So you get us all this time to ask all your questions. You get all this mentoring. If it takes you 8 years to get through your report, you still have us. We're not going to kick you out. Once you get into biz growth, you have a full 12 months with us. Once a week calls. We do once a week. I call them office hours with Janice. Once a week Zoom calls. They typically last about an hour long. We answer any questions you have, any emails you've gotten back from lawyers, phone calls you have coming up. What do you say? How should you prepare? We go over all of that for a full year. We have the in-person events. We have the Zoom trainings. Like today, we just had a nursing home negligence lawyer come and talk, who also happened to be a coach on growth mindset, which is really cool. So we always try to bring in people that are relevant, that are going to help our nurses stay in the game, focus, and go out and make something of their business, right? So 12 months with us, and then the opportunity to extend. So most of our nurses don't leave. They like to stay with us because they have this community of people who love on them, right? And want them to have success, and they're fun. Like they're just fun people. So we have 2 different ways. If you're like, hey, this is for me, raise your hand. Are you raising your hand? Hey, I want to do this. This is for me. I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably not for half of you. It's not for everyone. I was like, oh, I have to work for myself. I don't want to do that. I don't have the time for that. I'm busy. I'm in school, blah, blah, blah. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. Right. But if you're like, hey, I see this as a vision for myself and for my family. I know that I'm a hard worker, that I don't quit easily. I'm not a quitter. I understand that there are going to be tough days, tough weeks, tough months, but I can prepare for them. You get what true entrepreneurship is, and you're willing to put in the time. You're willing to listen to the things that we're teaching you, and you're coachable. Those are the people I want to talk to, because those are the people that we have the most fun with training, right? We don't want the Debbie Downers. We don't want the quitters. I will be the first person to say, I do not want your money, because somebody who's not serious, you guys, will go out, not succeed, and then blast your name all over the internet, right? Look me up. The people that really want this, they don't make excuses. They show up, they make it happen, they plug in, they get their questions asked, and they do it, right? Those are the people we want in the program. Those are the people that I want to work with, that my team wants to work with. So we have a few different ways that we do this. And Callie, are you still there? Can you chime in, Callie?
I can. Hello,
Awesome.
everyone.
Everybody, this is Callie.
Hi.
Okay, first of all, Callie is the most amazing person in the whole world, and I actually met her through the LNC world. She was one of my students 2 years ago. Yeah. Her and her husband are both now LNCs full-time. They both left their job, and she's so amazing. I never wanted her to leave. So she also helps me a lot with Legal Nurses Rock. I'm going to take a drink.
Yeah. So, do you want me to kind of talk about the breakdown of
Yes.
cost and all of that? Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to let Callie go ahead and take it. I'm going to take a drink. Callie's going to go over the fees, how it works, all that stuff for you guys.
Yeah. So for our program, the total investment is $13,000. And we have a couple of options for that. So that $13,000 covers the certificate, the mastery, and that full 12 months of biz growth. You can pay with credit card, you debit card, you can split on cards if you need to. We have a couple of options as well as outside funding as well. So we have 2 different companies that we partner with where you can go through, get financing. You need a 620 or greater credit score if you're interested in that option. It's a really simple process. You fill out their pre-application to see what terms, payments, all of that look like for you. And then you can decide if you want to move forward. Funding, that initial application does not impact your credit score. So you can take a look without any, being tied to anything. Those loans also do not have any prepayment penalties. So we see many nurses 3 to 6 months in that are able to pay that full investment back, which I think is another really important thing. I don't know, Janice, what you paid for your nursing degree, but most of us probably paid thousands upon thousands and took 10 plus years to pay it back. So return on investment with that is a little bit longer. Here, like we said, it's not overnight, but as far as a business and getting started in a new career area specialty, 3 to 6 months, even a year, if it took you that long to pay back that investment is pretty amazing. So we've got those financing options. We also have an in-house payment plan where you can do 3 payments of $5,000 a month. We have a checkout page that breaks all of this down. You can pay the full 13. You can click the 3 payments of 5,000. And we also have our links to our funding companies listed there as well that you can click on and fill out the pre-application. That way, if you do go through funding, the funds end up into your bank account, and then you and I would just connect and get you all set up. But it's a pretty quick process, usually a couple of business days until you get funded, if that's the route you choose. And I think another thing just to point out that a lot of people don't realize is that this investment is also a business write-off. So that's huge when you're starting something new and obviously can have those benefits. So
100%. Yeah. So what I'm going to do for those of you that, you guys can't see the chat. Oh, can we put it in the Q&A?
Let's see. So we do have some Q&A questions.
I'll go through those. I'll go through the questions and answer them, Kelly. If you want to figure out how to, what we'll do is we'll post the link so you guys can take a look. If there's those of you that are like, hey, yeah, I want to do this. We'll post the link. You can take a look and see the different options that you have. And then also, if you have questions, you can email us at care@legalnursesrock.com. And so I'll have Kelly put that there too. I'm really trying to figure out how we get you guys access to the chat. I don't know what happened. Let's see here. Accessibility. No, I am chat received.
Can you guys, so I sent a chat. Can anybody see that?
I don't think so. Somebody said it was like not on.
Oh, people. If you guys are on, and are you raising? They're raising their hand. I'm hoping that means they can see my chat.
Here, you know what we'll do? Kelly, type out the link.
Okay, someone just texted me. They can see it but can't respond. Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys.
Guys,
look, you even get my cell phone if you're part of our group.
You even have cannot help at 8 o'clock at night. That's awesome. I'll go
It's
ahead and
11 here. I'm always responding.
poor Callie doesn't sleep. I'm like, I called her last night. It was like 9 o'clock my time. I finally got into the office and I was like, Callie, are you awake? And she's like, huh, yeah, I'm awake. And I'm like, okay, I have to talk to you about this, blah, 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 blah. Callie, and she like passed out. So I feel bad. She's always awake for me. So care@legalnurses.com for any questions. And then Callie, if you want to put the link in there, you guys can go ahead and take a look at that document, see which one works best for you and jump in. And Callie will also help you on the back end. So if you have any questions, Callie is here right now. So right now is the time to ask those questions. So go ahead and shoot her an email. Take a look at this link first. And I'm going to go through the questions right now. I'll go ahead, Callie, you can mute yourself, answer the questions, and then you can help them if you see any emails coming through.
Okay, perfect. And I posted the link there, guys. So that legalnursesforjustice.com/certification will take you to that page that has the pricing breakdowns and all of that.
Sweet. Thanks, Callie. All right, Beth asked, oh my gosh, we have 17 questions. Whew, it's like rapid fire. Okay, I'm going to try to be fast because I know some of you are up really late. I am not muted, right? No, okay. Do you have to be an RN or can you be a LPN or LVN to do this? Hi, Beth. Answer live. Okay. So it is marketed as an RN only job, but I'm telling you right now, it is not true. RNs tend to dominate the bulk of this industry, but yes, you can be an LVN. And yes, there are actually LVNs doing this. We have lots of LVNs that actually work as experts, especially like nursing home. There's a lot of LVNs that work in nursing homes, right? And we need experts to testify to the standards of other LVNs. So there's that. Majority of LVNs tend to be in-house. They tend to get treated as a paralegal nurse. So a lot of LVNs end up in a in-house role. I do have a LVN that does this from home remotely. And again, it's up to the lawyer. If the lawyer's your best friend, it's like, you're an LVN, you're super smart, you've been doing LVN stuff for 30 plus years, you're smarter than a 2-year nurse, an RN, whatever. It's their decision. So yes, you can do it. I'm like the LNC whistleblower, and somebody somewhere will probably blast me on the internet for saying that, but it's absolutely true. So you can do this. And by the way, shout out to you, Beth. I was also an LVN and it is hard work. Okay. So yes, you can still do this. It's all a matter of you and what you want in your career. Doreen, since this is your own business, do you cover how to file for taxes for income you make in your course? Do you cover how to file for taxes for income you make in your course? So you make money, and I give you a whole list of things that you can write off, which is great, which is a lot of stuff, especially with a business owner. Like you take your team to dinner or you go to Vegas for a training. There's a lot of write-offs, which is one of the great things about being a business owner. I do give you a lot of tips for taxes, but I am not a tax professional. So I don't give you real advice because that would be against what I can do. But there, you end up getting, I have an accountant now and I have a tax person and they tell me what I can and can't get away with. So I do give you some tips, but it's not, talk to a professional. I'm not a tax professional by any means. That's a great question. What does it mean to sub out a case and how do you make money from that? So think of it as if I'm a broker and Callie and Kaylee and Kelsey, yes, they're all on my team and it's so hard to say sometimes. They're all my subs. They're all my real estate agents, right? I'm the broker, they're the real estate agents. So I go out, I bring in all the lawyers, I go to all the events, I do all the talking with the attorneys, I do all the marketing because I'm super social, though I never used to be. I was actually very shy. I grew into this role because I had to. Okay, so if you're shy, you can still do this. And I sub work to them. So when I get work, I say, hey, Kels, I just got this car accident case. I'm sending it over to you. Kels is kind of my manager now. I call her Kels, sorry. She's kind of the manager now, and she'll go through and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to send it to this nurse because this happens to be more their specialty. or this person has time, whatever, and she hands out those cases. And then they make a percentage. So typically when you're thinking business, the business really wants to be around 60% of the profit, right? The money that's coming in, you want to be 60% and you pay your subs 40%. So if you're charging $150 an hour, your subs would typically get around 40% of that, and the business would take the 60%. And so they're making less money, but they don't have to go out and do the grunt work, right? The cases actually end up in their lab. So they make less money, but they get to be home and they don't have the headache of marketing or reaching out to lawyers or having a lawyer chew them out on the phone or having a lawyer not pay them. So that happens too sometimes, but they don't have to deal with that. They just get the cases. And a lot of nurses are very comfortable with just being the sub. Like, I just want to sit back. I want somebody to put the cases in my lab. I want to do the work. I don't want to talk to anybody. And it's a really important role, right? We need them. We absolutely need them, especially if, here's the thing, if you stick with this, you are going to grow out of yourself. You cannot manage a business like this as one person as you grow, especially if you've been doing this for years, unless you're like, I'm only working with Joe, attorney Joe for the rest of my life. If you're reaching out to lawyers and they're telling your friends, you're eventually going to just grow and need help. So, which is great because that's how you make more money, right? If you're willing to be the CEO, the boss, do some of those things and hand out other jobs to other people, other tasks. So everybody has to have a role. It can be very lucrative. So I hope that answers your question, Doreen. Done. Okay, Alicia, when you sub out due to lack of experience in a certain field, like OB, do you tell the attorney? Is it just kind of understood that subs are used and not employees of the hired LNC? So it depends. If my sub, so for me, my subs, if they're brand new and we're working with them, it doesn't matter. If they're behind the scenes, we work with them and we usually will consult with like an OB nurse and say, hey, can you two work together? Like there's plenty of times where I put Kelsey on a case with one of my newbies and said, you guys are jointly doing this together because it's my name, right? It's my company. My nurses are very well trained. And I have one that does billing. I have one that does OB. I have one that does, I have a lot that do certain specialties, and I actually let them talk to my lawyers. And I don't care that they know that it's one of my nurses. It doesn't matter to me. Sometimes it's less confusing if you're like, oh, hey, so-and-so is doing this case, but my lawyers know. I have Jennifer that does my DMEs and my scans. I have, Heather that does the billing. Like they all have an email with that's Legal Nurses for Justice, their name. My attorneys, I've never met them in person. They usually deal with me unless they're sending a case or they need to talk to them and better understand the case. But sometimes the cases, they don't need to actually talk to my nurses because I read the report and I know how to, translate that to the attorney. So it varies. I think it varies is the answer to your question. Good question though. Francis. Oh, we already answered your question. Regina. Yes. Regina asked, I had a call with Kelly last week. Are there some other nurses that you could connect us with to ask how they are doing and how it's going now? Absolutely. So if you are in the free group, so for those of you that aren't in the Facebook group, hop over to Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, you got to get one and just put a picture of a cat up. If you don't want to be on there, but we are on there and I really highly encourage you to be on there. Inside of our free Facebook group, it's a group where you can go and get all of your questions answered. You're not members yet. You don't have to pay anything. There are a ton of nurses in our program that you can reach out to that have gone through the program, ask them how they're doing, their subs. I mean, Callie was one of my students. Kelsey was one of my students. There's quite a few people that will message you privately and let you know how they're doing. So you can reach out there and ask there. And I actually encourage you to do it. Really encourage you to find out and get those questions answered, because if you are hesitant in any way, it's gonna stop your forward progression. You're going to always in the back of your mind think that like you can't do it. So it's better that you go out and get your questions answered. So I really encourage you to ask inside the group, and then a bunch of randoms reach out to you. Doreen, what's a salary range as a sub? So it depends on what your legal nurse has negotiated with the firm. And this is a great question. Some nurses subs just like expect 65 an hour. And, maybe they'll get it somewhere. Some of our subs get 65, 75 an hour. Some get 35 an hour. It depends on what they're doing. Are they new? Are we hand holding them? Our brand new nurses that come to us make 35 an hour because I have Kelsey doing the report alongside of them. So I have to pay Kelsey as well, right? I have to pay her wage. Nobody works for free. So I have to pay Kelsey to monitor that nurse and ensure that nurse's work product is perfect. And that means Kelsey's kind of really doing the report herself. So 35 to 75 an hour, sometimes more as a specialty. So if like I have an OB specialist that goes and does my depositions, she gets 150 an hour. So it really just depends on what you as the boss have negotiated with your attorney clients. Does it make sense? Done. Yes. So Stephanie asked, it's 13,000 upfront. If you want to pay at one time, you save $2,000 because we're not taking a risk, letting you pay us, being the bank essentially. So 13,000 you can pay any way you want. And nope, she typed it in here. And then 15,000 if we're funding you and you want to do it in payments, it's $5,000 3 times. Go ahead, Callie.
And then I did put it in the chat. But if you're going to apply for funding, apply for 13,800. That will cover your loan initiation and fees. So you're not getting hit with that out of pocket. It'll just be rolled into your loan.
And we've seen payments as low as what, Callie?
Starting in the 200s. And it's based off of credit. But what I also always tell people is that you have a choice in like the length of your term. If you're looking for the lowest payment, take the lowest payment for the 5-year term. As long as you follow what is taught and you stick with it and don't quit in 2 months,
Right.
You will not need 5 years to pay yourself back. So find a payment you can afford. And just know that you'll be able to pay it off early.
100%. Yeah. If you follow the system, you guys, you will have success. Like we have a 3-case guarantee. We guarantee you're going to get 3 cases so long as you do what I tell you. Okay. You have to do what I'm telling you. I have people that'll go, I've been doing everything. I'm like, okay, well, how many of this did you do? And it's like a quarter of what I told them to do. And I'm like, well, you get to start over now because you didn't do it right. And there's a reason I tell you how to do it. So there is, again, a method to my madness. So if you follow it, it's very easy to follow. You show up, you have to be committed. And so I want to say that first. Look, we've already had 30 people drop off the call. We need people that are committed. So you need to be a person that's committed to making this happen. I do not want your money. I do not want you in my program if you are not someone that's committed. So you need to ask yourself, am I a quitter or am I committed? And if you're committed, then this is something that you should pursue. But if you just can't commit to the process, I don't want you quitting in 2 months and then blasting my name on social media because it didn't work because you quit, right? Like I work really hard in this business and I want you to have success. It's why we don't sell a certificate program by itself. We could sell a certificate program for $500, sell thousands and thousands of them, make a lot of money. But I know for a fact, if you took a certificate program, you're more than likely not going to succeed than if you actually went through my whole program. I could make more money because I could have more people buy at a cheaper price, but I choose to have a lot of support in the parts that really matter in a business, right? I have a huge team that supports you, a huge team I have to pay so that you have success. I want you to succeed, period. I guarantee you will succeed if you stick with me. All you have to do is listen to what I say. What is an average income of nurses working for themselves? I see anywhere from about 120 to about 180. And I will say this, that when you start pushing 200, you have to hire help. It gets really hard to make more money than that without help. So 120 to 180 is about all a nurse can really take on as far as cases per month, which is a lot of money. I know a lot of nurses make 60 to 70K. Some nurses make 90, and that's a lot of money, right? But 120 to 180. And then at that point, you're really like, I need some help. And you're bringing on your first, I call them your right-hand person. I teach you how to do that and how to scale your business. That is also part of biz growth, because it's really important. It's not taught anywhere, by the way, how to scale a business. I will teach you how to scale, how to hire. What's really cool about this, for those of you that are serious, is when you're looking at scaling, when I started and I hired LNCs off LinkedIn who just said they were LNCs, because anyone can say they're an LNC, right? We fired, you can ask Kelsey, she's here somewhere. We fired like over 100 nurses before we found a team of 28 that could actually hang, that actually knew what they were doing, because they went through a program that taught them what to do, right? And do you know what happens when you have 100 people you have to fire? People are not happy. They don't like you. They don't like you when you tell them, I'm sorry, I can't use your report and I have to redo it, right? So it is so great that we have a community, right, of people who've gone through the same training as you, who you can then say at the end of their third case, hey, shoot me your work product. Let me see how you did. Or, hey, Janice and Kelsey, how did they do on their work? Or, I never see this person on the calls. Is she committed? Probably not. I probably don't want her to do my report, right? Or this person shows up every day. They did a great, every week on the calls. They help other nurses. They're incredibly knowledgeable and their reports are awesome. That is the right-hand person I want. You guys get that built in. I didn't have that. I had to hire people, fire people, pay people that did crappy work. And you get to bypass all of that. And I think that's the best part about this for people who are serious about building something and scaling something, is you get to skip the hard part. And I think that's just a ton of value. I've paid thousands of dollars to just get bad nurses to go away, you guys. I'm being real with you, right? This is a business. Just to get them to go away. Because I'm like, oh, just here's $2,000. I have to now pay somebody else to just redo it. And one of the reasons I wanted this was to create a community where you were guaranteed that quality. You can see the quality of work those nurses put out. You can watch them, right? You can look at them yourself. You can say, hey, they show up all the time. They're really helpful. They have a great attitude. They're not a complainer. You get to pick somebody as your right-hand person. And we have lots of people who just want to be subs in our program too. Ryan. Oh, Ryan, when does the next CERT program start? Tomorrow. So it's a self-paced program. So Ryan, you can start tomorrow if you'd like. You have cohorts. What's nice about it is we don't really do cohorts, but when everybody starts at the same time, you'll know it just in the chat and in the community, because we really pay attention. We'll say, hey, this is a newbie. So you guys will get to know each other, and they kind of form their own little group. So, if you're wanting to do it, you can start as soon as tomorrow, or as soon as, if you're financing, when the finances come through. As soon as we receive the funds, you will get access to the platform. So it's a training platform. Again, there's videos and downloads, everything that you could possibly need, plus all the lives and everything. So start as soon as tomorrow, right? Is it possible to shadow a LNC that works for you if I were to sign up for your course? So the biz or the mastery program, you're like shadowing an LNC. We actually go through the process of writing up a report, how to organize the records, how to put it in the report. Then you work with Kelsey or Kaylee, doing the report. So you do get to shadow. As far as like shadowing someone to do a whole case, it just wouldn't even be possible. I think everybody would want to shadow my nurses, and there would be no time for them to really get work done. So they get to do it through Mastery. When you become a member, you'll go through that and you'll work with them on the Zooms. You get to see both of them during the week. You get to see me. So you actually get us 3 days a week, you guys. You get me one day, Kelsey and Kaylee on the other days. So there is a big opportunity to work close with them, right? And you get it in a recording, so you know how to fix it. So we don't do like one-on-one shadows, but we have a team that you get to shadow and learn from. Let's see here. Could you just email out all the follow-up information? I need to go to sleep soon. Thanks, John. Let's see. I've taken another LNC course, but felt that I've had too much difficulty trying to connect with lawyers. William, this is very, very, very common, and you are not alone. I totally get it. I'm in a great position to provide consultation with attorneys since I'm an expert in nursing. Absolutely. I just need to get a better understanding of what attorneys need from an LNC. This is, again, this is where most programs fail nurses, is this exact thing. We get a lot of nurses that come to us from other programs for this very reason. And it sucks because I always wish, I'm like, I wish they would have found us first, because they end up paying like double, because they now have to go through and actually learn how to, write those reports, figure out what that attorney really needs, and actually land the client. So you're not alone, William. That's very, very common. And we would be able to help you with that. Would it be helpful to be a paralegal and take your program? Absolutely. We have had paralegals actually that have gone through our program, so you can totally do it. If some of those relationships with lawyers are different, right? So you could be a paralegal that's been working with a lawyer for many, many years, and they they only like you, and they only want you to do their chronologies. And so this would be very helpful for you to learn. And even if you're a paralegal now, taking a medical terminology course, that kind of stuff would be helpful too. Does location of license matter for cases? This is such a great question. I'm so glad you asked it, Mary Grace. So no, so you are not practicing as a registered nurse, as a legal nurse consultant. You are consulting on a practice that's already been done. Okay, so that's also a big confusion. So you can consult on cases across state lines. It's not a problem. You're literally taking what already happened, what is there, and you're educating the lawyers about it. So you can do that without having a license in 100 states. Great, right? That's why this is so awesome. Yes, Idam asks, do you have to enroll in the entire program to become a sub? Yes, you do, absolutely. Why? Because we actually tried it and let people do just sub, we let them do the foundation program, the certificate and the mastery, and we were finding out that they still needed to figure out how to market themselves to get sub work. They still needed to run, get a business up and going. A lot of girls or guys will also just have a website and then say, hey, here is my website. This is what I do. This is how I can help marketing to nurses. So there's still a business aspect that you need to have. Also, most of us don't employ our nurses as employers. They are mostly all contract because we don't really know when the work is coming in. So it's not consistent. It's not really reliable, if you will. So we can sub it out. So there is still a business aspect as a sub, and you are still 1099, you are still a contractor, and you still have to have your own business. So we don't separate it. There is no separation. It's the same. I think it's necessary. And I also think that a lot of subs end up subbing and saying, well, I had to market to nurses, so it's not any different than marketing to lawyers, and I could make 3 times the amount of money. So then they can start off right away after doing 3 sub cases and make more money. So we don't split it. We used to split it, and it just, like I said, people were failing and I didn't like it. So I'd rather have someone go through everything, because all of my training builds on one another. So everything I teach and all of the courses and all the content, it all builds off one another, and you miss a good chunk of education when you split it up. Okay, so Nicole asks a great question. You spoke about subbing out to someone in a specialty if there is a case that you are not knowledgeable about, but happens when there is a situation, or what happens when there's a situation where you have a case and don't know the specifics of how a procedure or how something should be done. So a majority of our job is research, Nicole. So we actually have multiple different programs and platforms that we go off of that we can say, hey, this doctor did A, B, C, D, or A, B, D, and missed step C, because we have a way of identifying what that policy or standard is, or what that procedure should have looks like. So a lot of research goes into your business. Also, you cannot make a statement or opine on something without backing it with research. You just can't make things up, right? So you are always researching anything you do. So even if it is something you are familiar with, say it is part of your specialty, you still have to be able to prove it, right? So if I'm like, well, they should have checked that OG tube with an X-ray, but they didn't, I can't just say that. I have to actually pull like, hey, this is the policy that says after we place this NG tube, we're supposed to check placement. We're supposed to check it, right? Here it is right here, number 7.000. Like they have to have proof. You can't just speak something. There has to be proof to back it up. Well, show me. Where does it say that that's a policy? So you do a lot of research. And if you still don't know, what's cool about being in a community full of nurses with a lot of different backgrounds is you can ask, right? You ask the community, hey, we get that all the time. It's like, hey, I have a case, there's a wound here. I understand everything, but I don't understand this one thing. Can somebody help me with it? And people will help you. So if you need help, there's help. If you need to dig more and research, that's also part of your job as a legal nurse. Sometimes the lawyers don't want to pay a specialist because they cost more money. And they'll say, hey, research it and tell me how it's supposed to be done. You can do that too. Good question. I've always meant to ask, does working as a legal nurse consultant allow you to maintain your nursing license? I don't know the answer to that. I know that we have to, I still do continuing educations based on what the state requires. And I think every state is different. So you'd have to check into your state. A lot of us have been able to just, we do this, and then our CEUs, or sorry, I think it's CEUs for lawyers and CEs for us. I get confused. We're able to do the continuing education, and we're actually getting our program certified to be a CE program. So you'll get to use it as well. It's coming. It's such a process. So you'll get to use that as part of your education and what you turn into the state. If I don't want to run a business right away, how do I let nurses know I want to sub so I can get more experience with cases? Exactly why you should go through BizGrowth. You're going to have to market yourself the same way. What's helpful is when you are, again, in a community, some people will go through the reports and then they'll just say in our group, hey, here's my specialty. This is how I can help. Let me know if you need help. And then we also have a directory where you can put your information and we'll use it. We'll say, hey, I need someone with OB. Oh, look, Alicia's here. She has OB experience. Can you help me out on a case? So there are a few ways. You're going to have to reach out to nurses. You're going to have to let them know you're available and you want to help. And then also the directory too, when we're like, frazzled trying to find a nurse that can help us. Great question. What kind of legal risks are there working as an LNC? So when you're working as a legal nurse consultant, you don't need medical malpractice insurance. You need an insurance that's called omission. There's a special insurance. It's offered through right now 2 different programs that I know of that are relatively affordable, 2 different companies that are relatively affordable. But there's an insurance on omission. So what you don't want to do is omit information that could mess up the case, right? Like if you went through the reports and you missed something and it was important and they found out about it and they saw it, yes, you can get sued. In my history, I've never seen an LNC get sued. Our nurses are really, really thorough and very careful, and they tend to read the medical records really well. Like it's just what we do. I haven't seen somebody get sued, but there are legal risks. There's legal risks with everything, right? But you get an insurance. I want to say it's like, I've seen like $300 to $700 a year for it. So it's not a lot of money, and it does end up being a tax write-off for your business too. There I need two are allowed to speak with you. Yes. So Kristen asked, this is a great question too. Has there been any situation where you get a case from a lawyer and there's a circumstance where you, the nurse, need to or are allowed to speak with the patient directly for any clarification? Absolutely. If they want you to talk to the client, you absolutely can. We tend not to talk to the client unless necessary. But I have talked to clients that maybe are a little more difficult, or maybe the lawyer, maybe they're emotional and the lawyer doesn't quite know how to deal with them. Nurses are great at listening, right? We're good at calming people down. So we've definitely talked with clients, and if you're allowed to do it, so long as your lawyer wants you to do it, there's no problem with it. And a lot of in-house nurses will actually like interview the clients. So we've done it. I have lawyers sometimes that will just send them my cell phone and then they call me all day long. So yeah, the patient sometimes talking to the patient is actually easier for us too, to figure out what happened and follow the story and theme of the case and what it is they're trying to paint. So you can do it. It's totally okay. Are the reports required to be written in APA? You can tell I have not written a report in APA format in 100 years, right? Or MLA format. Nope. No, not at all. Nope. The one thing that's helpful is maybe when you're like at the end of your report, when you're sharing what resources you used, maybe you want to use it in APA format, but even that's not necessary. Nope, they're not written. You don't have to worry about any of the old school stuff at all. No, Melissa, no, we do not. Let's see here. Is there specific start dates for the program? So if you need a start date, because you're like, I need a start date, you can start tomorrow, right? Let's start tomorrow. Let's get you going. You can start on Monday and actually pull it up. Sometimes if we have enough nurses, we'll create their own Facebook group and say, hey, everybody's starting on Monday. Here's a group where you can all get to know each other. We have a few of those right now. We call them our little cohorts, and they've all become really great buddies and really tight. If there's enough of you that join and you all want to start Monday with us, because you're like, I'm down, let's go, I want out of the hospital, I will start a group for you. So, but I've got to have, it can't be 2 people. Like there's got to be enough of you that are going to start as a cohort. Otherwise you can start whenever you want. It is self-paced. There are plenty of people to support you. And there are plenty of people starting all the time that you will have a group of people. But if we have 10 or more people that join tonight and are applying for financing, I will start a Facebook group specific for those people that really, really want that camaraderie. Is that a word? Yeah. I hope that answers. We already answered that question. And are your books the same? I bought both Crush It and I recently purchased Scrap the Scrubs on Amazon. Thank you, Kristen. I really appreciate it. They are Crush It's the original book, so it has a lot of original stuff from, I think I wrote it, my kid was 2, so it's like 4 years or 5 years old. And then this Scrap the Scrubs is an updated version of it. So information, how to get a hold of us and all that stuff has actually changed. So it's a more recent book. And they do have a little bit of different information in them, not a lot. And it's on there too on Amazon that this is the updated version. But there are some things that are different, but it's not huge. Zoom calls are recorded, Regina. So if you miss them, it's totally okay. But we do have different ones. So I'm not 100% certain what times they are. Monday, I think is, Kaylee, are you able to talk? Are you not able to talk? Kaylee can probably tell us, or Callie might be busy too. We have one Monday. Oh, there she is.
We have, let me think. We've got a Tuesday. Hold on. I can actually tell you guys the exact time. So Biz Growth is on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. The mastery calls, we have one on Tuesday and we have one on Wednesday. And I'm going to tell you you guys those times right now. 1 second. Okay, so Tuesday is at 2 p.m. Eastern. So that would be 11 a.m. Pacific. And Wednesday is at 9 a.m. Pacific. If that helps.
We have we have one Monday and 2 Wednesday.
1 Tuesday and 2 Wednesday.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay. I totally confused you guys. So 1 Tuesday and 2 on Wednesday, and they are recorded. So you can watch the recording because we understand people have jobs. Let's see. Does marketing help include resume writing? So we actually don't write resumes, Doreen. That's a nice question. So your terminology will be CV. We call them CVs in the legal world. And they are significantly easier than a resume. And we do go over that inside of the program and show you how to do that. So you don't have to worry about that. Don't know. Let's see. Are hospital or medical facilities policies available for public knowledge? Yep, 100%. When you're working with a lawyer and they demand this policy and that policy, they have to turn it over. So you can actually, we request them all the time. We'll be like, hey, you know, what's the turn policy of a patient, or what's the restraint release policy for someone that's being restrained? And you get them and you can use them obviously during your case and against them. So yeah, they are public, and your lawyer will request them if you tell them what they need to get, which is a big part of our job, right? They don't know what they need to request. So I'll say, hey, you know what, this patient fell, you know, let's get the call light policy, let's get the restraint policy. You know, they had a head injury. Is there a policy for patients that had a head injury, you know, prior? Should they have a sitter in their room and not be alone? Should they be closer to the nurse's station? Where is that written out? We need to find that so that we can use it in building our case. If I go through your program and get done, can I come back to ask any questions? If I'm working on a case and get stuck, will that be an extra cost? Yes. So when you're ideally, after you finish about, we'll say 3 months of certificate and mastery, and then you start your 12 months with us, you will be ideally having cases in those first like 1 to 3 months, right? So as you're going through, you have us for a full 12 months, you can ask questions. Then if you decide, hey, I love this community, I want to stay, it's $149, so $149 a month to stay inside of our community. So you'll get to go to the live events, you'll get to hang out with us, you can ask questions, you can still participate in the biz growth calls and all of that. If you're like, I don't want to do it, I don't need it, I'm cool, we still have the free Facebook group where a lot of people will be, and you can ask questions there, and we do answer questions there as well. So there are a few different options. There's a free option, there's a hey, I never want to leave you option. Yeah, hope that answers your question. Oh, Nicole, have you ever had a time when someone has taken a case for the first time with a lawyer and then found out that the lawyer was shady and needed to back out? Yeah, I've actually taken a case with a lawyer that was shady and backed out, and you can back out. You are not, here's the thing, if you're a legal nurse behind the scenes, peace out, it's your license, right? If you've already been chosen, I'm going to use that word for you guys, as the expert witness, so the judge has written the document, has approved you as the expert witness that will be testifying on the case, it is much different, more difficult to get out. Once you're like in the system, it's very, very difficult. And I've had that happen to people. And so it does happen. And you know, there's ways to go around it, and we would just kind of figure that out as you go. But if you're working behind the scenes and you find out someone's shady, you get to choose who you work with. And that's really important. We've had a few lawyers, okay, most lawyers are good, okay? But just like any profession, there's some slimy ones. There just are. And some will try to get free work out of you, and then some will, you know, give you a ton of work and then never pay you. So you have to be careful. And I think this part of being an entrepreneur is really trusting your gut and not being desperate. And a lot of nurses, because they're excited when they first start, take on any case, and they kind of ignore those red flags, right? Some of those red flags, like we had a firm who, and they don't, here's the thing about lawyers, they don't understand that legal nurse consulting is actually a very small niche. Small, you guys, small. very small. It might seem big because you like look up legal nurse on LinkedIn and there's like thousands and thousands of them, but everybody just calls himself an LNC after they go through a program, but a lot of them aren't actually doing it. So the community is actually very small. So we actually had a lawyer who was reaching out to a bunch of nurses who happened to be mine and had gone through my program and to attend a DME. And we have a really fantastic girl that does our DMEs here in Southern California. And a red flag went up for me when I saw these nurses posting that this DME needed to be done in the same city at the same time. And I was like, what's going on here? Why do all these nurses have a DME for this, like the same time in the same area? And I was like, hold on. What's going on here? Well, this lawyer was reaching out to all these nurses, like trying to find who would do it the cheapest, basically. And we have standards. We have to set standards, you guys, so that we don't like bid each other out and then somebody's making $20 an hour as an LNC. That's not why we do this, right? We do this to work less, make more. So you don't want to sell yourself short. So what they found, what these lawyers were finding was like everybody had pretty much the same fee. And we also had the same nurse because our nurse is amazing and she services all of Southern California. So that's just a crazy thing. You just have to watch out. So I knew when he was fishing around for nurses, I said, I don't know if this person's actually going to pay their bill. I know that sounds crazy. So we actually called them out. I was like, hey, you know, these people are all use the same nurse because there aren't a lot of nurses that do DMEs. Finding nurses to do DMEs is really, really tough. We need more DME nurses. So if you're interested in doing those, hit me up. And so, you know, we have one nurse and you've reached out to all these LNCs who happen to also be my students. And they denied it. It was crazy. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay. And you know, just like, I don't have a clue. And I'm like, okay, so lawyers, right? So anyway, it's just, you've got to be careful. If your gut says, they might not pay, or you really got to trust your instinct, I think, here as a business owner, as a nurse. Like, I think as nurses, we have a really good instinct on like something that might not be right and not be desperate, especially when you're new because you're excited. And always what I love about the community too, is you can ask those questions before you do anything. So, hey, I have a situation where this guy or this lady lawyer is doing this, this, and this, they're saying this, and you'll get all these nurses that'll chime in and they'll say, I would pump the brakes and maybe not take that case because they're putting you in a bad situation. So you will have backup, but you've got to ask. Okay. Good question, you guys. Oh my gosh. On average, how many hours do you need to work as an LNC to supplement a full-time RN income? Doreen, you better be joining our program because you've asked the most questions tonight. So it is up to you. So let's just say, what's the average RN income? I'm telling you, my paychecks were so small. They were like $1,900 every 2 weeks. So I made like $4,000 a month after taxes, right? It was nothing. I made nothing until I did a travel assignment. And then I was making 10K. And oh my gosh, I was so excited when I could buy all the nurses on my floor dinner. It was like the best thing ever. Let's just say the average nurse makes $5,000 a month take home, right? So if the average case, when we say average, because we can't always get it right. So it's about, I always say like 2,500 pages of records, typically 2 to 3 days. It's anywhere around $2,500. So if you had 2 cases in a week, you've already made what you make as an RN in a month, right? And most nurses can do 2 to 3 cases a week. So multiply that. If you do 2, 3 cases a week, 2,500 each, that's what, 7,500 times 4. That's a lot of money, right? 20K plus per month is a very common number for LNCs to make on their own per month. And then if you're like, I don't really need that much money, or I want to take time off, you do. I hope that answers your question. Yes, and Melissa already answered your question about liability insurance. It's an omissions insurance, and we actually help you. We do a video on that inside the program, so you know exactly where to purchase, what to purchase, who to call, all that stuff. They're not, now I'll be honest, it's not fantastic, you guys, because this is still it's a field of nursing that started like 25 years ago or longer, but it's still so niche and doesn't really exist that a lot of people don't know how to help us. Like, I called so many different insurance companies. When I started, NSO was like the insurance place all nurses went to, right? They had nothing for legal nurse consultants. It's been within the last few years that they actually launched this specific LNC type of insurance for the omissions part of it. Like I called State Farm and they quoted me like $30,000 a year because they didn't understand what I did. So, but we do walk you through all of that and help you with the right words to say so they understand what it is you're really getting and that you're not really practicing. I think that's the biggest part is they always think nurse, medical malpractice, right? And they want to upsell you on that. You don't need that. How do you find lawyer networking events in your area? I actually teach you how to do all of that inside of the program. Great question. Is there a state exam, final exam, or both that you need to pass in order to get your certification? Not in our program. It's not necessary. It's not required. It is not a thing. There are programs that have a test at the end to see like your knowledge as far as like legal terms and stuff like that. Our test is our work product. That is what makes or breaks an LNC. Whether you know the terms as an LNC means nothing to me. Like it means nothing to a lawyer either. Can you write a report that they know how to read and they can turn around and use and they can make money off of? That's the most important part. I hope that answers your question. What is the growth of LNC in the future? You're asking a ton of questions, my dear. I think it's huge. And here's something I always tell people that are looking at doing this. I still have a business as an LNC. I have a team of nurses that I go out and market to attorneys to bring work in for. If I did not think that the outlook for LNCs in the future was bright and big and huge, I would most certainly not be sharing my secrets with the world, right? I would have this like scarcity mindset and I'd be like, nope, I ain't telling anybody what I'm doing. I'm not showing anybody my work product. I'm keeping it to myself. But I don't have that fear. I think we need more LNCs. We need a lot more LNCs. I mean, I in a group of 6,000 people and I'm asking for help a few times a week and I get nothing. There's a big, big need for nurses that are going to stick with it. Too many of you quit on yourself. It's really, really sad. So I hope that those of you that are serious and you want to do this, hop on that link. Callie will help you. Again, if you decide to do financing, you guys, it does not impact your credit score. So you can just give it a shot. If you're like, well, I did not get it because don't feel bad. Most nurses have bad credit, you guys. It's like a thing. So don't feel bad about it. We do have the options of payment plans to help out nurses. And you know what's great, you guys, because I also had really bad credit as a nurse when I was new. I was able to pay off all of my debt, all of that stuff. Now I have an 800 score. I bought my house, I bought my car. Like I walk in the bank, everybody thinks I'm super cool. So this business and having this, having the ability to work for myself as an LNC has given me so much more, not just time freedom and financial freedom, but the ability to pay off and grow a really great credit score, which we talk about in the program because a lot of nurses don't even know how important it is to have a great credit score, especially if you're growing and scaling a business. It's really important. So we go over that too. People are nursing special requirements to limit our practice as LNCs. William, I don't know. You have to check your state, but usually it's not a practice. Again, it's not a practice, it's a consulting. So even if you weren't an RN, if you were a paralegal who took a medical terminology course, you could go work for a lawyer if you thought you had the skills necessary. This was super informative. Thanks so much. Yay! Oh my gosh. Haley, thank you for speaking up. Yeah. So if you need a push, look at me, girl. Here's your push. We are here to support you. I have a team of nurses. It's important to have support. I think a lot of people think I do this by myself. I don't. I can't. There's no way I could do something of this magnitude alone. I have the best, and if you've met them, you know what I'm talking about, the best, the kindest nurses that work and really want to see you succeed. And so you've got the support. I always tell everyone, if you can copy and paste, borrow my belief in you, because I know when you're first looking at doing something like this, it's scary. I get it. I was scared too, but I know you can do this. I've seen many people do this. Lots of people have gone through and are having success and are doing amazing. All those people you see in those videos are doing amazing. So you've just got to you just got to go. You just got to close your eyes and say, I'm going to do it. I'm not looking back. And I think that's the most important part, is recognizing I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to give it a good shot. I'm going to give it a good try, right? I'm going to stick with this for 12 months. And you're actually with us longer than that, because 12 doesn't start until biz growth. So a lot of our nurses are with us. What was that? 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 months. It's a long time to be with us, right? Some are with us for 2 full years or more, or they don't leave and they stay with us. So you're going to have that support. And it's really important. I think you just need to do it. I think you just need to jump. It's truly the best life. How high or how frequently do you hire your grads? Quite often, actually. Maybe weekly. We just hired, I think we had 2 or 3 last week that just worked up new cases for us that Kels was working with in training, and Kaylee was working with. We do it quite often. We're very busy. And so we hire our nurses and we watch our nurses. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. We are watching who shows up. And the people that show up who are serious, have a good attitude, who, listen and create a good work product, or even if your work product sucks the first time, you listened and you made the changes and you were coachable. Like, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I did so bad, I'm never going to do this. You're like, oh, thank you. You guys, you cannot be expected to know how to do a report your first time. And yet as nurses, we beat ourselves up over it because we don't want to mess up, but you're going to be bad at this, period. You're going to be bad. And we know it, we expect it. So you've got to, if you come in with a good attitude, we're watching you. I always reach out to Kelsey and Kaylee, said, hey, how did this person do on the report? I know they have a specialty in this and this and this. What do you think? Yeah, they show up to every call. They're always positive. They're always helping people. You guys, this is a community. It is a family. This isn't just like a program. And I think that's where people get it confused. When people reach out to me and go, well, I'm not paying that for a program. Well, I don't think we're just a program. I mean, my staff is supporting you for, sometimes years. I've had people, I started this 7 years ago. I started Biz Growth, the Biz Growth portion, before I added the other 2 that I realized people really needed all together 7 years ago. So there's a lot of help and a lot that you can do when you stick with people who want to see you succeed. How many hours are expected during training? So when you're working on your report, each report took us about 8 to 16 hours to do. They're actually the smallest reports and the easiest reports that you'll probably ever do as an LNC. But they're challenging because you're new. Like, the last thing I wanted to do was give somebody like a 10,000 page medical, med mal case, because nurses typically already think on the med mal side. The hardest thing for me to get my nurses to understand is you're not working this up as a med mal case. Like, so our cases are, we have a dog bite, a car accident, and a slip and fall. Oh yes, I'm going to be giving swag giveaways to people, by the way. Oh, how do we get there? Oh, you know what, you guys, we can go back through the answered questions and pull your emails. So we'll email you when you get swag. I'm giving away the books. I'm going to give away 10 books. I think I'll give away 10 books. So I'll go through, we'll draw names, and we'll get 10 books out, and we'll find you by your email that you registered with so that we can get your shipping address. Okay. Side note. Oh, what did you ask? Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I totally lost my train of thought. Callie, what were we talking about? I don't remember. Look, I'm human. So Haley, did I push you over the ledge? You mentioned class action, the cases and time frame. Oh, thank you. See, my team, they're also on my phone. So, yes. So they typically take 8 to 16 hours for us to do, and we're proficient at it. They usually take 2 weeks or a little longer for nurses to do it who are working 2 to 3 hours on it a day. So they'll come home, or they'll wake up early, work on it, do it in the evening, or on one of their days off, they'll knock out a full 8 hours, but you're learning when you're doing it. So it's going to take you a little bit more time. So it's about 2 weeks per case and 2 to 3 hours per day as a newbie. I hope that makes sense. Yes, you mentioned class action lawsuit earlier. Can you elaborate on how LNC gets a cut of that? Does the LNC get a percentage of any other lawsuit if the attorney wins for the patient? No, so we cannot. So lawyers can do, oh, they can give money back and forth for something. We can't take like, we can't like get a bonus. Like, hey, you won this case, you get a bonus. So when you're working up a class action, like the one that we had, which was really large, at one point we had, let's just say we had 30 nurses and they're all making 35 an hour. We're charging the firm less, about 110 an hour because of the volume. So if everyone's making 35 and I'm making 110 minus 35, what is that? 7. I'm not very good at math on the spot. So let's just say 75 an hour. So the business is making $75 per hour per nurse, and they were working full time. That's a lot of money, right? 75 times 8 times 5, and then times 30. I hope that's accurate, but you get what I'm saying? It's a lot of money, right? So that's how you make your money, and you're managing, right? You have to manage that team. You've got to ensure that all those reports look identical to yours, which is great about having nurses who I've already trained. You don't have to train them, access to them, because when you have that many nurses functioning, excuse me, when you have that many nurses functioning, if every nurse just ran off and did whatever the heck they wanted, your lawyers would hate you and would never have you back, right? So every single report has to look identical. So we created what we called the Bible, and it literally was the Bible. Everyone, like down to how to write the dates, because lawyers like their dates in a certain way. So everyone had to make their reports look just like us. And then we had a QA process. So then Kelsey was involved in the QA of all those reports to ensure that they were perfect and that we could put a bow on them and hand them over to the lawyer. So you're managing, you're making money for managing, for bringing in that lawyer, and then you pay your subs. And you can see how when you have something of that magnitude, how much money you can make. But I always tell newbies, don't take on a class action right away, you guys, because you really need to be comfortable with what you're doing first. I get these nurses like, I'm going to land a class action tomorrow. I'm like, they are not easy. It is not easy to teach a team of 30 people how to write a report if you're brand new. You will fail. We actually had 2 nurses who just decided they were going to do it, and the law firm called us up and fired them and hired us to do it because they just thought they could do it as newbies, and it doesn't work. Like, you cannot just run out there and try to manage something of that size. The one we had, it was with 4 different law firms at one time, so we were coordinating with different legal teams. And that was a mess. Trying to make sure everybody's on the same page. Like, it's a big thing to take on. But once you're comfortable, go for it. There's a lot of them, and you can make a lot of money, and your nurses can make a lot of money, and they tend to go on for a long period of time. So you have a pretty much guaranteed income. Like, our income was almost every 2 weeks we were getting paid. You can write out your payment schedule because it's bigger, $60,000 to $80,000 every 2 weeks for 3 years, right? So lots of big, exciting things you can do. I think Haley jumped the ledge, so that's why we're not hearing from her. Let's see if that one answered. Alicia, I can attest. LNR is an amazing group of people who all want you to win and are so supportive. I'm in mastery, and these guys are amazing. Thank you, love. Oh, you guys are so sweet. And does the program include DME training? Yes, it sure does. One of our students has become incredibly proficient in DMEs, and she does a training for us. It's in the bonus section of our Biz Growth program. So it is a service you can add and make additional money off of with your attorney clients. Her program that her training that she does is amazing. I just actually trained a new nurse off of it last week or the week before, and she's done 2 DMEs for us, and the lawyer was blown out of the water. So you'll get very good DME training. It is included in the program. You don't have to pay extra for it. And the great thing about it is, you think about it, we charge anywhere from $850 to $1,200 per DME. So the cost of the program, what, say 1,000. So you do 15 DMEs and you've paid your program back, right? You've paid back. You could literally pay back your program in 2 weeks if you wanted to, just doing DMEs. And we have people, like a couple of my students in LA, that's all they do is DMEs, like DME after DME. And they're so busy, they can't even help me anymore because that's literally back-to-back DMEs. Running to the bank real quick, be right back. Oh my God, Haley, I'm so excited. Does anyone else have any questions? I know it's super late, but I really wanted to take the time, and I appreciate those 39 of you who stuck here until the end. I'm actually probably going to just tell everyone goodbye if you have no questions, and I'm going to keep the Q&A open so that I can go through and write down all of you that participated tonight. I really appreciate the participation. I know you guys are busy and have lives and work and are tired. So thank you for coming. I hope I answered all of your questions. And, you know, I really hope that if there's this little, you know, person in your head that's just like, I really want to do that, that you feel supported enough that you can make, I have goosebumps, you guys, I'm legit, that you feel supportive enough to make the decision to jump, because it really has been hands down the most life-changing career shift ever. Like my life is nothing like it used to be. And in so many ways, just the people I've met, the things I've been able to do, the stuff my family's been able to experience. But it takes you being brave enough and bold enough to try something different and something scary. And if you're willing to link arms with us and you're somebody that just, you know, is excited and ready to go for it, we're really excited to team up with you and help you reach those goals. And again, I know it's not for everyone, and that's totally okay. But for those of you that are serious and are a little crazy, just like us, you're the ones we want to work with. So I hope you all have a really wonderful night. Thank you for joining us. Callie.
I just wanted to say bye and thank you. I'm going to give you my phone number.
It's 300 people calling you tonight.
It's midnight here, and like I did to Janice, I did fall asleep when she was calling me at that time, but I'm going to put it in the chat. If you guys need to reach out individually for anything, you have it. So
we don't do that, you guys.
No, we don't.
I don't know yourself. No, I think this is great because there are a lot of you. And so if you need help, Callie will absolutely. We've pulled all-nighters, you guys, to help our nurses. So we're serious. If you're serious, we are just as serious as you are. So please text Callie. If I need to help, I can always jump in to help too. And we're so excited. For those of you who are jumping in and you're like doing it right now, we will start a cohort Monday for you. If you're like, that's what I need, I'm happy to do it. So you can meet your colleagues and get going. And you guys still, I just want you to know, side note, this is the best time to start your business. We are still in fall frenzy. It is a really crazy time. We're very, very busy. So if you're like, hey, should I do this now or should I wait till January? You need to do it now. Don't wait until January, because January it slows down. So now is the time to get started. And if you're like, hey, let's go, let's do it. Thanks, Callie. Do you have anything to add? No,
we're here. We're excited.
We're so excited, you guys. Thank you for joining us, and CareAtLegalNursesRep.com. If you need more information or in a few days you want to reach out and find out how to join too, you can do that as well. I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you for spending it with us, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye, guys.